The best salespeople in the world are the ones who do it without you even noticing. Everyone's a salesperson, especially if you're an entrepreneur. In the I'm Not Salesy podcast, join me, Cassie McKenzie, and my fabulous guests as we dive into the top strategies, mindset, and energetics around sales and money so that you can hear more, yes, I'm in, instead of crickets or getting ghosted. So if you're ready to fully book out your programs with aligned AF clients and have people chasing you down in your inbox, asking how to work with you, then subscribe to this podcast today and become not salesy too. If you are new to this podcast, I am Cassie McKenzie. Welcome to the I'm Not Salesy podcast. I am excited because over the next few weeks, I'm bringing you some very special guest experts on sales, sales energetics, hypnosis, making 6 figures, making 7 figures, making 8 figures, and beyond. And all of these guests were featured in my business manifestable, which was held in my group Big Sales and Breathwork on Facebook, because I have a 24-year history in pharmaceutical sales and medical sales. And what I found though is the strategies don't really change. And the strategies, are fine and well, like you can Google them. But what really makes a difference in whether you're going to be selling $10 or $10 million a year is how your body is responding to the stress that you're under. And that's why to have your peak performance, I love bringing in big sales breath work for my clients and people like you. So in this business manifestable, I'm highlighting all types of speakers that are not just strategy based, but also energetics based, so that you can learn how to use your intuition, use hypnosis, you can learn how to use breath work, even balance out your nervous system, and also use it to attract an unlimited amount of money into your life. This is phenomenal stuff, and I'm so excited to bring it to you. So here you go. All right. Okay. Yay. We're streaming to Facebook. Welcome to the final session. We saved the best for last, right?
I'm honored.
Yeah. I'm so excited how it worked out though, because Rosie was initially slated, I think, for like Tuesday or Wednesday or something. And but this is so perfect. I love closing out the week with you. Now it's like 5 o'clock your time, right? Is it 5 or 6? It's 6?
Yeah.
Ooh, yay. Lewis gets dinner duty. That's even better.
Yeah.
Mama gets a break.
Well, the kids, after the nursery start this week, Freddie is like just hanging on for dear life, like walking around like this. So I'm pretty sure that he'll collapse in his tea.
Oh my gosh, that's so cute. I remember, oh, yeah, because that really takes it out of them. They're like new stimulation, new people, new everything. So if you guys don't know, speaking of new stimulation, welcome to the world of Rosie Victoria, everybody. And for those of you who don't know Rosie, she's actually one of my favorite mentors ever. I've been in her world for multiple years, right? And most recently was at her event in Boston, where if you've been following my story at all around the breath work and around my near burnout, like this is where I found out like your body needs some serious attention and you got to start using that breath work for your own health and wealth here. And so if you've heard me talk on the podcast or on my YouTube about that, this is the lady who had the event, and it was so much fun though. It was like such a perfect group of people. I love it.
I know, I want to go back so bad. I feel like time has gone so fast. I got home and I had massive holiday blues.
Yeah, it was 2 months ago. Like we left to come home 2 months ago today. Isn't that crazy?
I know. I'm planning to come back though, back end of the year.
Yeah.
I'm making it happen.
Come to Florida. You'll like Florida, but not during hurricane season. Don't come during hurricane season.
It's hot. It's got my name on it because the heat here is very questionable right now.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm so excited. Like Rosie's definitely an energy master, and you know, I love your story of like starting out with broke ass to badass and then switching into now her community. She's like centered in on helping those of us who, do things differently, who aren't meant to wear like, like bougie outfits and black hats that are as big as the room all the time. And you know what I mean? Like to just show up being ourselves, saying dick jokes and getting away with it. You know what I mean? Like if we actually started the week off with Kristen, and Kristen was at the Boston event too with Rosie, and it's like such a perfect ending to the week. But I'm excited to dive right in to the conversation here around money coding because yesterday I had Alexandra Trevison on, and she was talking about like muscle memory and how there's muscle memory with the old like experiences and decisions and things you've gone through, old memories, right? And how like when money trauma comes up, it's like activating those old muscles and your system's kind of getting off on it a little bit. And so it's not until you bore yourself out, like she referenced the book Existential Kink, which we have on, it's the only kinky book that my husband and I have in our room right now. It's a personal development book.
A little insight into the raunchy.
I know, right? We need to spice it up a little bit. But anyway, so I'm excited to continue this because I feel like you may take it from a different angle and in your own rosy way. And like when you say because you recently had a call on your psychic membership group, right?
Yeah.
About coding money into the body. And can you explain for everybody what that means in your world?
Yes, of course. What an intro. You made me blush. I was like, hype me up some more. Okay, so just leading in, my name is Rosie Victoria, and I'm the creator of the Misfit Business Lounge. Now, essentially what I do is I help women who have always felt like they don't belong, who have felt like misfits, who felt like they don't fit in the online and the offline space, to really get comfortable with their voice, their mastery of who they are, their comfort within themselves, and assert their genius into existence in a way where they're making sales, making bank, and making things happen. Okay, so with the sensory experience, you've just unleashed like a can of worms. I'm going to riff, so if you want me to slow down, if you have
I usually
questions,
do.
and shut it out. Because ultimately, just taking on from yesterday's call about the old muscle toning, I fully agree with this because our body is the muscle memory that we train it to be. And a lot of what I speak about is the stamina that we have for business and the capacity that we have for business. Now, I'm known for saying your capacity is your reality because ultimately, wherever you're at right now financially, whatever's going on in your money story is a reflection of who you are at the depth of your existence. And if you desire to raise your financials in your business, you desire to increase your sales, you desire to get to the next level, you have to reflect on what is my capacity. Now, capacity is all about muscle memory, whether that be in money, expression, identity, energy field. It's all about muscle memory because we train our muscles as to how comfortable they are with something and what that really means for it. And this is just like going to the gym and the way that we train our muscles to get used to holding a certain weight or being available to a certain cardio workout, which is not me, may I add. But when we step into business, it's exactly the same because if you're somebody who's only ever normalized, let's say, $200 sales, that's going to be what continues in your reality because there's a normalization of that. So you might go to the gym every day and get a $200 sale, but anything beyond that, your muscle memory is not trained for it. Now, what happens as a result being a business owner is when we desire to give ourselves these bigger cash injections, bringing in the 10,000, the 20,000, the 30,000, we have to train our body to both normalize that and hold the stamina of it. Now, if we're going to normalize something, and this is how the Misfits was actually birthed, we can't perceive money as this is money on a pedestal and I'm here because there's no normalization of that. And I spent so many years questioning, who am I in the online space? How do I belong? Where do I kind of step into leverage? Because I really got into my business probably as we were coming into lockdown in 2020. Before that, I had a business, but I'd say the biggest shift was in 2020 for me. Now, looking at that, I was a new mom. We'd been thrown into a global pandemic 3 weeks after my first child was born. There was a lot of like energy going on physically and mentally for everybody around me. And I had to say, do you know what? It's not normalized for me to perceive money in this way where I feel like I need to have a branding shoot and I feel like I need this and I feel like I need that. And I can't operate my business without those things. And I really started to plug in, well, what is a normalized experience of money? Because it didn't feel like my physical reality. I wasn't going to fancy 5-star restaurants because they simply weren't open. I wasn't socializing with wealthy people because I was locked inside. And therefore, if I was going to get comfortable with the essence of money, I had to really bridge the gap between how do we as humans perceive money. And a lot of people instantly go to that materialism or what that looks like and how they perceive it, but based on what they've been taught about money. And I had to drop into, well, what is the energetic experience? So when we look at money coding is not about the imprintation of how you see money right now. And if you're watching this, get really comfortable with how do I perceive money, because that's a big insight into where you haven't normalized money. Now, in order to do this, you have to drop into the energy of money is a sensory experience. Now, I know as a psychic that everything is energy and everything is communication. But when we look at our senses, these are how we're receptive to everything inside of our life. So the touch sense, the vision sense, the smell, the sound, all of these are your senses that are stimulating energy to you on a continuous basis. Now, the reason why people go to this picturesque imprintation of wealth is it creates a sensory experience in the vision that makes them say, that's wealthy. That's wealthy because it's different to what I'm living right now. That's wealthy because of the price tag of it. They go into a visual representation. If we are going to hold ourselves in wealth, we have to normalize the sensory experience that happens without physical wealth being there. Meaning that regardless of your circumstance, you can change your imprintation and your coding of money because it is a sensory experience and it's a sensory expansion. So with the money is sensory, that is understanding and asking the question of how do I bring a sensory experience through my senses that allows my energy field to get behind the concept of money in a way that stimulates me to allow wealth. So it's what do I allow in energetically through my senses, through my touch, through my sound, through my smell, through my feel that allows me to feel wealthy, even if it's not my reality right now. Because in 2020, I'd had my first 6-figure year from a lot of passion, like, let's do the thing, let's go. It wasn't sustainable. My prices was too low. All of these things were going on that it just wasn't sustainable. And I had to look at, if I'm going to normalize this, what do I need to allow into my life that doesn't feel like it's here now? I'm not going to fake it till I make it because that is ick, but I'm going to allow the sensory experience of what feels normalized to me. How can I make who I am today feel wealthy? How can I make who I am in this moment right now get activated to believe that she has confidence and the connection to go out there and make the money that she desires? So yes, it is a muscle memory because it's how much you can train your body to allow that sensory experience into existence. Long-winded answer.
I love it. It's so good. That was gold, guys. All right, we're done. Bye. And scene. Okay, so I love that answer, and it does, and it makes 100% sense. No pun intended. It actually makes 5 senses.
You can always trust Cassie for the witty joke.
Bidding. Yeah, so okay, so how do you reconcile that part though, right? You've got this part where, all right, let me bring the senses forth, let me take myself there first. And that's what I love about my big sales breath work, right? Because I'm literally connecting people with a vision that makes them feel like they're there right now. And so you're activating the senses there. You know, you're activating everything on that cellular level there. But how do you reconcile that with maybe you've got, because if you send somebody off to do that every day and only that, then what if there's this like unknown stored trauma from generations even, or from growing up, you know, that's combating that and, you know, subconsciously blocking that from happening? Like, how do you achieve this without this dragging you back so much?
Ooh, I love this. And I think what really comes to the surface for me is the fact of the present is the future. And when you really decide that the present is the future, money doesn't need to be held at this pedestal. What I hear for a lot of people is money is above me, it's on this higher vibration, and I'm not there yet. So their future imprintation is, oh, let me go for the future, let me go for the future, let me go for the future. And they know who they want to be in the future, but it's never a now thing. Now we have to take it from a future position into the now. And we can do that because none of those things exist unless you decide they exist. And this is
Yeah.
how we actually perform, psychic readings, and we drop into channeling really divine messages because we can go into somebody's past, present, and future and bring forward the coding and the imprintations of what's lingering in those energies.
Yeah.
But bringing the future into the now is what steps you into the identity of who you can be. Because if you're going to play in this big energy of business, this bold energy, this higher self energy, you have to play like your future self. And you don't need the future to become her, you need the right now. And if you're waiting for your business to give you confirmation of everything's in line, you've got the email list, you've got this, you've got that, now you can go and do the business, you're never going to get there, because it begins with you putting yourself into the arena of, who do I really desire to be right now? And that is a sensory experience, because when we're visualizing who we want to be, whether that be through sound, vision, smell, any of those things, it's a
Right.
connection of ourself. It's how we desire to see ourselves. But instead, we feel these limitations, these pull-in of other people's opinions, their thoughts of money, the lack of the audience right now, and we let them pull us back into a place where we don't feel like we can be that woman right now. And you can be that woman right now, but it's about understanding, what are you trying to bring into fruition of your body? And I feel the biggest moment for me was when I could really look at my expansion of what I desired. And it wasn't the money that I saw, it was more expression. It was me being louder in my sales process. It was
Oh,
me bringing more expression into the vocalization of my business, so that if somebody, read my content or jumped on a live with me, they could feel a presence, they could feel an energy. It was never about the money. It was always about me and how I felt in the pursuit of the money. So when I was able to drop into, how do I desire my audience to perceive me, which is simply
yeah.
emotional intelligence, and emotional intelligence is psychic intelligence, because you're looking at, what is it that I want people to perceive? Well, it's not normalized money. If we're having to perform for money, that doesn't feel normalized. And I see so many people in the online space in this performance, because it's like, let me perform
Oh,
for the
yeah.
money, and like, let me make myself feel that way. And it just doesn't work. At some point, we have to scale backwards and say, how can I just be me and my personality in a way that normalizes everything that I want? So everything that you see for yourself and you experience through the sensory experience. So if we're looking at touch, that could be clothing. Do you feel connected with yourself through the clothing? Are you wearing, my default, especially in lockdown, was gym leggings, because it was like, well, we've got nowhere to go, so I'm just going to put on the gym leggings and I'm just going to
Yeah.
walk around the block, and then I'm going to come back home, because that was the default. But ultimately, did that make me feel expansive? No. And that's why I always refer to people like, when you're showing up, do you feel that connection? Because you can hide behind the post feeling like a hot mess, but if you normalize the hot mess, it really doesn't matter. You can just make money whenever. And what I
Right.
did was I normalized that version of me and said, let me bring her to the forefront, because nobody else is, because that makes me feel powerful, and that makes me feel like I can receive at the highest possible level. So I had to look at, where do I not have the sensory experience? Let me
Yeah.
have the sensory experience through the normalization, but also let me ask myself, like, is this lighting me up right now in the present, so that I can feel the expansion, hear the expansion? If you're constantly around negativity, you're not going
Ugh.
to feel the normalized state of wealth, because you're hearing that through your sensory experience. I had to get myself into the gateways of, how do I be around people that are having bigger conversations? How do I be around people that are having conversations about money, that have money, that maybe have businesses in real life, so that I could start to get stimulated? And that's when my social surroundings started to stretch, and the different people that I have friendships with started to stretch, because I had to get acquainted to a different level of energy so that my sensory experience could evolve.
Yeah, because you naturally want more as a human. You want to be yourself, but also experience like all of what life has to offer. And I was actually talking to my husband about this yesterday because we've gotten into a lot of discussions over like just it seems like this week. Because I've started to notice like some of the patterns that I've had from doing the breath work and having these discussions. And like yesterday, I was in the kitchen and I actually made a reel about this morning. It's like pretty funny. Go check it out. But like it's basically like all this shit that you're blaming on PMS. Like, what if it's not that? What if it's just like you're angry because you got rejected, like, by this
Mhm.
person, or you're angry because, or you've got all these stored things that are preventing you from experiencing and opening up and having that capacity. Because I think naturally, even when we start to think about making more money, the first thing, like the idea of money is great. But when you start to think about the path to get there or the structures you might need or the things you might have to do. And if your mind is telling you, oh, well, you're working this hard right now, so making 5 times that much is going to cost 5 times more energy, then your body's naturally, which isn't true, right? It doesn't have to be true, but like your body naturally contracts down and then your capacity to hold more goes down. And that's why I love the breath work because it's opening up that capacity and, bringing those limiting beliefs to the surface and neutralizing them, like kind of like a little laser, you know what I mean? And opening up the capacity to be like, wait, it doesn't have to be that way, you know? It doesn't have to be that way ever. But it's a consistency. You can't just like do it once and then do it like 3 months from now and be like, oh, well, it worked or it didn't work, right? And also, I want to say you are 100% your same self in person it felt like 5 days we were all together, but I think it was only like two.
I feel
But
like we lived a lifetime in that just 2 days.
especially like the last 10 minutes of the second night, for sure.
We had all the energies come to the. I got left in the house on my own for a temporary period, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, please do not leave me in the house. Where is everyone?"
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. So, but I can see where the freedom is. I mean, I can't just see it. Like, I definitely understand, and I hope everybody listening understands where the freedom is in allowing yourself to just be yourself from the start, because then you're not spending energy pretending to be somebody else. And you don't have to be like, oh, I mean, it would be like anxiety inducing. Like, imagine if I walked into that room in Boston, excuse me, and you're sitting there like, oh my
Hey.
God, hey guys, all right, so we're gonna play a game. It's called Fuck You. And I don't know. And then we'll probably just go eat something. Okay, we'll go to dinner. And like, I'm just gonna avoid doing the work. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not being yourself online, then you're not gonna be able to be yourself with clients and customers and things like that, right? And it's gonna suck your energy, and you are your own energy vampire. Think of it that way. You're your own energy vampire in that
Right. And I
case.
think a lot of people psychic attack themselves because they have this like self-imposed disconnected belief of themselves in a way where like they're in and they're out. So like they want to be the leader and they want to stretch into that next level of energy, but they just won't let themselves. And then they like create all of these reasons as to why it's not happening and take themselves through this emotional cycle. So if we look at, I'm sorry, I love the spiritual community, but you're fucked up. If we look at the spiritual community, like they are constantly riding this wave like this. And I cannot tell you how many conversations I have of people are like, I'm up here, I'm down here, I feel good today in business. Now I feel bad. And it's because what they do is they take every emotion that they have in their energetic body and they say, this is my business's problem. This is money's problem. This is my business's problem, rather than dealing with the emotion. Emotions are not a bad thing, but they're always screaming something to us. Now, the biggest shift that I made in, again, normalizing my identity, but getting comfortable with mass amounts of money was really stepping into that process of what is this emotion and why is it moving through me? So if I had a wave of anger at the end of the day, was that anger or was that my body saying, hey, your nervous system is ready to regulate right now. You're done for the day. You're tapped out. Don't carry on sitting and scrolling on your phone. Don't carry on trying to make money right now. Just tap out and go and live your life. If I felt, funky in my energy of money, was that really a money issue, or was that a sale issue? Was I frustrated at myself because I wasn't showing up? And the more I started to decode what was actually happening in the emotional body, I started to realize that nothing had anything to do with my business, because even when I've had dips in energy, my business has still been thriving. We
Yeah.
all go through life. We all go through, ups and downs. I lost my granddad when I had just given birth to Luna. Then we had some like parental conflict in family, and all of the things. They're just reasons. If I made them define me in business, they were going to define me in business. Instead, I decided, okay, like I feel a certain way. I'm not going to project this onto my business. I'm not going to decide that this is my business standard. This is who I am. This is the energy. I could have said, you know what, we're in COVID. I've got a newborn. Suddenly, do you know what? None of this matters anymore. I'm defined by this. I'm sucked in, and none
Yeah.
of this matters. But I decided this is just a reason. It doesn't have to be the reality that I have to live. How do I say that this is not a projection on my business? The amount of people in COVID that, yes, were rightly so affected in their business, but also there are millions of ways to make money now in 2024, 2020, more than ever. And I feel like we have to stretch beyond and say, okay, where am I projecting this onto something that doesn't need to be my story? The same with motherhood. I could say I'm a mom of two, and that's going to be my story as to why I can't make money. It's just a story. Is that going to be your reason, or are you going to decide that that's just an emotion you're feeling? And once you decode and understand that emotion, it's actually presenting something to you.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's all like what you're doing with it. Although, it is, I can, I have, like, I think back about when I was a sales rep and calling on accounts, and like, you were talking about like the ups and the downs. Hold on one second. And I had to make 5 to 6 sales calls a day. And if I had taken personally what happened in each of those 5 or 6 interactions, which could have been with just the receptionist at one office, or it could be the receptionist plus 3 nurses that ignore me, patients who look at me like, what the hell are you doing here? You're taking my time, you dumb pharma rep. And then the doctors who literally like, they're like, where do I sign? And they don't even look you in the eyes, and you're supposed to talk to them. So literally, like, having multiple interactions, probably on average, I would say like 50 interactions with people a day. And if I'd taken personally what happened in every single one of them, like, I would never get out of bed in the morning, you know? And so I find like it does take a lot of emotional intelligence, but also look at the big picture here, like, you are not you're the sum of all these interactions that go on, but you choose to see where it's going to take you, and like how it's going to affect your stamina and your momentum. And I just chose, like, to let the good interactions mean something about me, and let the like bad ones mean I had maybe something to learn, or maybe they were just dicks, and maybe they're just an office I don't ever want to have to go to. And when I do, I just don't expect a whole lot, but like stay detached emotionally. I mean, not like, I expect them to still use my product, but I didn't expect them to acknowledge me personally, because they just weren't. They're like an emotionally unavailable boyfriend that you just use as like a fuck buddy instead, and so like I just thought, well, that's that. But I can see when you come out into your own business, and when you are selling your own offers that you've created, and if you don't have any income to fall back on, or if you're constantly looking at all these other people who are successful, and meanwhile then looking at your results being like, well, I should be further along by now, then it does start to do some damage into your system, not just in your mind, but you start to like save these emotions in your body, and you may not even realize it, like
Yes, and the amount of
disappointment.
entrepreneurs that I speak to that are making beyond a full-time wage that they would make working for somebody else, but they have this perspective because of the online space, like, my business is not doing good, I'm not thriving. And there's money coming in. Yes, it might not be enough money, but there's money coming in, and more so than it would probably in a full-time job a lot of the time. The problem is, and I'm going to say it, guys, they don't know how to handle their money, which is not an issue with your business. Again, it's an issue with your muscle memory and your toning. If you're constantly in this cycle and you're receiving, 10K months, but it never feels like enough, then there's something happening. There's something that's going on in the way that you're utilizing money because you think you need to be normalizing a standard that's bigger than the standard you're in. Whereas how can I normalize this standard while stretch at the same time? And I had to get really comfortable with, okay, I'm going to normalize feeling safe here whilst also stretching. I want more for my life. I want to be able to spend what I want to spend. I want to go on holidays and vacations and all of these things. I'm going to normalize and stretch continuously in one. So I had to get comfortable with the stretch that was like, okay, I'm going to play in this energy of really big, bold connection with myself, but I'm also going to feel safe in like what is possible for me right now in that grounded root. And I feel that's a scary conversation because we are here, and a lot of us, and pretty much everybody in this group, we're here to make the logical, the what doesn't seem possible a reality. So we're taking the illogical into the logical, even though it doesn't look realistic. And we're doing that by giving ourselves the chance to say, okay, anything is possible for me when I stretch my identity. But also within that, we need a ground. And the ground is the muscle toning. You can't go to the gym and lift this massive rep if you've not done the weight training, because you're going to damage your body. And it's the same with money. A lot of people, they're trying to have the Beyonce confidence for the 10K, the 20K, but they've not done the weight training. And if you've not done the weight training, it's not going to happen because you're not going to normalize that in your body. You're going to try to put out the post of, yes, I'm charging XYZ, and your body's going to flop because you don't feel like you're able to hold that stamina. And if we look at this from going to the gym, I think we can all relate at some point in our journey, either going to the gym or saying we're going to eat a certain way. And especially with diet culture that is slowly starting to improve into, emotional well-being, I feel like it's that process of I'm going to start the thing, but I'm not going to finish the thing. When I realized that wasn't just my business. It was a reflection in my life. I was the starter, but not the finisher.
Yeah.
And that was the one thing that I committed to myself of, I'm going to finish the thing. I'm going to finish the thing with my health. I'm going to finish the thing with this. I'm going to finish the thing with that. And every year I try to heightenize that energy of what does it look like to give more to my health, to give more to my presence, to give more to my business, in a way where I am finishing and I am getting comfortable with, I started this for a reason and now I'm going to stretch my energy.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. Because that, like, it all does go back to your capacity and stretching that. So what are your favorite ways to do that then? Because it's great to talk about it, but then putting it into practice is a whole nother thing.
Ooh, okay. So a couple of ways. I would love to do a little exercise with anybody that's watching this. Cassie,
Yeah.
you can do this as well. So have you got a pen and a piece
Kay's
of
watching, by the way. She says, "Ooh,
Hello.
I'm a recovered finisher, not a starter type."
Okay, now I want you to grab a pen and a piece of paper and just close your eyes, okay?
Okay.
Now we're gonna just allow ourselves to take our pen to our piece of paper. And as you're taking your pen down, you're establishing the root. So wherever you perceive as the root chakra on that piece of paper is the root, and you're just placing the pen down. Now, when you're ready, I just want you to glide the energy through the root, however your pen feels fit to glide. You're not thinking about your movement. Wherever your pen goes, it goes. And this is you channeling the energy through your root. So any way you don't feel safe, secure, you lack trust, you're just moving that energy through the body right now. Now, when you're ready to stop, you'll just stop. And then find another point on the page to begin the sacral. And then again, just let the pen glide wherever it needs to glide, in whatever motion it needs to move. As we're going into the sacral, there's a lot of emphasis on relationships, the womb energy. So whatever the body needs to release, it's just going to release through its natural movement on the paper. When your pen's ready to stop, it'll stop. If you're feeling any emotions, if you're feeling any uncomfort in your energy, if you feel a little uncomfortable, that is your body purging an energy now. When you're ready, you'll find a point to go into the solar plexus. And again, you'll just allow your pen to move. And the solar plexus is your creativity, your passion. I always call it the momentum because it's like the heat, the energy that's felt behind your business. And if you don't have the momentum, how is your audience meant to have a receptive sensory experience? So you want to move the pen across the paper wherever it feels cold when it's thinking about the rigidness inside of its solar plexus. And then again, when you're ready, you're going to find a point for the heart. You're just going to allow the pen to begin gliding. Any ways where you felt like you're overgiven, overcompensated, not receiving at the level you desire, charging too low, not receiving the audience that are really leaning into what you're giving. Maybe they want all your freebies and they want to take advantage of how kind you are in the DMs, but they're not actually buying from you. You're just going to channel all of that energy through the body, allowing the pen to glide wherever it needs as it releases and removes the energy from the body. And when you're ready, just finding a point for the throat. And again, just allowing the pen to glide as it brings to the surface any ways in which it's holding itself back. It has something to say, but it feels scared to say it. Feels uncomfortable saying it, vocalizing it. You're just going to move that through. You're just going to channel the pen. And when you're ready, take the pen and put it back down. And we're going to tap into the third eye now. We're just going to move the energy across. Allow the pen to glide wherever it needs to, allowing the third eye to just release any ways that it's distorting its activation of vision, what's possible, the reality. Just glide in the pen, followed by the same motion then for the crown. And when you're ready to just stop, you can stop. Okay. So what we've done there is essentially just purge the energy through as you're connecting with each point. And you can do this with paint, you can do this with colored pens, you can spend as much time on each chakra as you desire, really getting into the motion of what needs to be released. But then we want to tap into the sensory experience. And in order to tap into the sensory experience, we have to bring in that attachment of the senses. So we're going to look at, okay, smell. What would be the activated frequency of smell for you? The same way everybody likes a different perfume. Okay, let's bring in the smell that makes you feel wealthy. So that might look like having something on your desk that smells like wealth. And then you're going to go into a process of whenever you feel disconnected from wealth, you're going to bring that smell into your energy. You're just going to spend some time really getting that energy cleansing into your space. Let's say you have a certain visual of yourself that makes you feel wealthy. It might be a certain top, a certain skirt, something that you really enjoy to wear. What that might look like is that you can visualize yourself in that energy when you're wearing that thing, the confidence that's oozing through you, and you're bringing in the physical sense that recognizes what is wealth in that department. So the smell, the sight, the sound, and you're bringing that into your energy. Maybe you're somebody that you feel that good vibe of money when you have certain music playing that gets you into that ambience. The problem with money and restriction is when people feel the lack of money, they go into this tight bowl and they don't do anything to combat their senses. So their audit, their sound, their vision, all of that becomes closed off. What if you could open that up by starting to introduce it through your senses? How would that move through the stagnation much faster?
Yeah. Oh my God, so good. I'm so relaxed from the first thing. I was like, oh wait, I'm the host of this too. I'm supposed to say something.
Just like zoned out.
Like, oh yay. Wait, this is my chance to respond. Oh, Kristen's joined us too. She says this is one of my favorite exercises. Which one? The one with the circles and stuff, or the ones with the the money, like the senses, that like
I bet it's
laying
the
out all
circle
the
one.
senses.
The circle one we do in the psychic circle quite a bit. So it might be
Oh
the
yeah.
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 We
Whew.
should have a paint and brunch with that, where we can just like sip and paint all the chakra systems, release the energy.
Yeah. So is it, does it just come out however? It could be like lines, or does it have to be like circles? Is it meant to be circles?
whatever it's meant to come out as. I had a client this morning and I was doing a psychic upgrade with her, and it was so funny because I was like, after every one, take the pen and put it back on the paper. And by the time we'd finished, it literally looked like the outline of a goddess. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Cassie's like, mine looks like nothing.
I don't
But
know what it looks like.
there's also ways that you can lean into that and understand, okay, so when you were channeling that, did
It's a
some of the
dog.
chakras feel like more of a
Kristen says,
bigger
oh,
sense?
she said chakra sipping paint. Yeah. So what were you saying? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Let me focus.
Cassie, it's like when you're doing that, was there certain chakras where you felt bigger circles coming through, like they needed to process more energy and they needed to purge more energy? Did you feel more restriction with the pen in certain chakras? You can then analyze the energy that came through to know where in your body needs the work.
Yeah, and some of them for me, I felt like there was big, it was like bigger, wider circles, and I didn't
Mhm.
know what that meant, but like some came through as circle and others it was almost like it was like back and forth, almost like finding like the little niggle area or whatever to like release,
Mhm.
like
So
popping a zit.
yes, I love popping spots. That's my guilty pleasure. I'm not gonna lie, you guys.
I love it.
But do this exercise on your own and then really analyze what came through and what channeled and dissect it, and it will reveal to you certain places that need sensory experience. So let's say your solar plexus needed a sensory experience. That's about momentum. So it's not about the physical imprintation of money, it's about the momentum, the heat, the fire. Why don't you feel that fire, that confidence, that heat? We need to ask that question and bring it in through the sensory experience.
So good. Oh, I love it. So what other kinds of things do you like to do for like exercises do you like to do for expanding the capacity even more? Or does this directly correlate with expanding your body's capacity for wealth?
I feel like this is energetic, but if that energy never comes into motion, then there's never going to be a direct communication of wealth, because there's always physical things we need to do to build our wealth story. And I feel like, one of the things that I try to be very visible with is how does the internal spirit body actually transition into the external? Now, if you saw yourself as a millionaire, you wouldn't be playing small. You wouldn't be holding back on selling. You wouldn't be giving a shit what anybody else is thinking. You'd be stretching, you'd be showing up, you'd be selling, you'd be being loud, you'd have the strategy, you'd have the funnels. That is a constant tunement, because we have to learn, how do I redefine this and tune this to a higher frequency? We
Yeah.
constantly have to raise it. And that's where a lot of people live in limbo, because they're like, I don't want to always be working to the next thing. You have to be able to do that thing without feeling like you're constantly having to change. It's about understanding, I get to raise the standard of my life, and I'm not willing to settle for anything less than this. And really put on your big girl business energy, like the simple basics of business. It is mind blowing to me how many people, especially in the online space, don't have those simple big girl energy business energies locked in, because they're not doing the things to stretch and grow their business. And when
Yeah.
you ask them what they're doing in their business, they're like, well, I'm creating the content, and now what? But they're not asking the question of, well, is your content converted? Is there an understanding with your audience? Is there things that you can be doing with that regardless of your content? If your content's not converting in this sea of people, maybe you need to get it into this sea of people. And it's almost like the questions that we need to ask
Yeah.
to actually stretch our business, that's where people lack the emotional intelligence to keep the energy flowing to these higher capacities. They store themselves at the coding of, I know what's comfortable here, I know how to create here, so I'll keep doing what I'm doing to create 5K months. There is a massive difference between what you're doing when you're creating 5K months to what you're doing when you're creating 500K months. And especially like now, something that I'm having to shift with is, how am I going to get to the next level? I'm going to have to learn the skill set of handing off things, delegating a little bit more. That is new to me in the energy. I'm having to learn, okay, what's the process of that? What's my expectation? How do I desire to lead that? What is going to be the most profitable support for my business next? I'm wanting to bring somebody in who can like follow me around and create content without me having to worry about like visuals and things. Like, it's just there, it's just locked in.
Yeah.
And therefore, I'm having to think about, well, how do I delegate that? What do I expect from that? These are all new capacities that we have to get comfortable with. The same way, you know, some people have to get comfortable with, let's say, the relationship building because they don't know how to do that. Every single component of your business is your capacity. And therefore, if you want to raise your capacity, you actually have to sit there and say, what is my relationship building like right now? What is my visibility? What is my imprintation of wealth? You have to ask the questions that are going to allow you to stretch. And I think this is
Yeah.
why sometimes, you know, people love and hate me continuously in one, because I kind of hold that standard of your energy is not enough. Like, if your energy, if you feel it, but nobody else on the internet does, then you ain't fucking gonna grow your business because you
No.
might feel it, but if I can't feel it, I'm not buying from you.
Yeah. You can't keep it all to yourself. And I want to say before I say the next thing, my previous guest right before this, Bree Kane, I need to hook you up with her because she's the one that has a whole VA agency. And she's actually like grown her business from like $70 a month, like 13 months ago, to now like had her first 100K month in January because she's got all these systems and started hiring early. So she's like a real master at it. I can hook you guys up. And actually, the whole conversation we just had prior to this one was all about all the things you were just talking about. So you could, get a feel for her vibe there. Um, but yeah, like with what you said with the momentum, I kind of equate it to being like when you want to open your window to get fresh air and there's no wind that's going to come through if it's not windy outside. Like it's open there for the air, but if you don't have any wind blowing, then it's not going to like, circulate through your room. And so if you're doing that in your business where you're like opening up your chakras, you're doing the healing, but then you're not taking anything from that to then fill those areas with the new identity, then you're definitely going to stay where you are or backslide. Because I noticed, and this was one of the conversations I was having with Ian, my husband, you guys don't know him yet. I
Have
was
you
having with
interviewed Ian? I want to see an interview with Ian. Can you give
Oh
that
my
to us?
God, I know. I should. Yeah. That'd be really amazing. He would love that. He would love to get interviewed for sure. I should do that. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were talking about how like the need for external validation. How so often, especially as an entrepreneur, we don't have like what I was thinking of like back, for example, when I started out as a new rep, what made me successful was the team I was put on. That was part of it because I was part of one team with this woman that ran it, and you could tell that she didn't like me and this other chick that was like younger and like, we were the two youngest ones, and she wasn't a huge advocate there. Like she didn't expect much out of us, and she kind of like talked shit about the other chick in front of me all the time. So I was like, what are you saying? What are you saying about me? You know what I mean? So by the grace of God, about a year later, I got my own territory. And that was when I moved to Alabama and I was put on a very high performing team. And the manager there was this guy, Darian. He's former military, but he would just like blow you up basically and be like, there was no question about whether or like if I was going to do something. It was kind of like, here's what you're going to go do. And that's what you're going to do. And like, okay, I'll see you. You know what I mean? And even though I was the newest on the team, it didn't matter because I held myself to the standard of everybody else there. Like I knew the job that I had and I really wanted to hang on to it. So it was like, my back was kind of against the wall in a way, but I was like, it's my choice to rise up here. But I also had a supportive manager who expected me to anyway. And so it allowed me to expect myself to do that anyway. But when you transfer out into entrepreneurship and you're the one that has to expect that out of yourself, because even the best mentors are not going to like, they don't have skin in the game in your business. Like, it's not like my manager, my sales manager, who is literally going to like get a smaller bonus or lose his job. Like it's not pay for performance when you hire a mentor,
And I
it's
feel
basically,
like this is why mentors, coaches, therapists get such a bad rep because people love you when things are good, but when things are bad, like that's when the projection is easy to throw because it's like, I'm not where I want to be, and therefore screw you for everything that you've said. But what I've had to start
Yeah.
challenging is when my clients are in those phases, because it happens, it's life, is what are you not willing to see about yourself? And I
Yeah.
cannot even explain to you how many people will sit there and say, I'm not making money, but everything that you gave them, they're not doing. And
Yeah.
it just blows my mind how stubborn people are in their old money stories to not even attempt the new money story. It's like I could literally drip feed this into your body and you would still deny it in
Yeah.
existence.
Well, it's that, but it goes also back to that, like the muscle memory, right? So if you have these stored stories and stored traumas that says it's not okay to be successful, like it's dangerous to be successful on your own and you're not going to be able to keep it up, then like you're gonna lead yourself to this point where only strategy works to this point and you're not going to do anything more to get to that next level because it's unsafe, like it's beyond where you've been already. Those quantum leaps are great in theory, but if you don't have the capacity to land there and stay there, then it's not going to become that new reality, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think
Yeah.
that's the thing is we've always got to learn to stay somewhere. Like right now, if I want to keep staying in this level of business, I have to get comfortable with the next level of team. I have to get comfortable
Yeah.
with hiring two, three people. Like one person is not just going to cut it. So I have to take that stretch and I
Mhm.
have to lean into that energy in order to give my business what it is that I need. So I think when it comes down to muscle memory, it's about are you going to the gym and expecting to perform a marathon
Yeah.
without doing the workout, or are you continuously doing the workout to stretch you in a way that's allowing you to be visible and allowing you to
Yeah.
show up and give the energy to your clientele? I do believe that energy, strategy, identity are all equally, in need as one
Yeah.
another. And I call it like a triangle because that triangle, if you take away one of them, all the sides are going to flop because the energy without the strategy, without the identity, it can only take you so far, and vice versa. We
Yeah.
need the full triangle because the full
Yeah.
triangle is where we really get permission to stretch. And I think people live in this swinging energy where it's like, I'm there, but I'm not, I'm there, but I'm not. And I guess for me, it comes down, and I know I'm quite direct in my communication, but it does come down to personal power of, are you willing to actually code in the new story? Do you have the personal
Yeah.
power to say, this switch is turned on and I'm not going to switch it off? People switch their own light off. And we see this a lot in the spiritual community because they say, I'm connected today, tomorrow, I'm not connected. I don't feel like doing anything. Like my energy is low. We're going to do nothing. If you're
Right.
connected, you can be connected at any point. Like spirit just doesn't decide, hey, you feel good, so today you can have a sprinkle of spirit guidance. Tomorrow you feel bad, so we're going to retract all of that. You're going to feel lonely and isolated.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. Spirit is there continuously. People just haven't trained their body to constantly have the switch turned on.
So like what I noticed about myself with especially going back to your event where I found out about my adrenal issues, and the more I started to research those, the more I I get an email, it's like optimize your business with a virtual assistant. And I'm like, that's what we're talking about right now. But anyway, so when I found out about my adrenal issues and I started to research it, it's like these little pieces, this like little spirit drops are coming in of like why I did things the way I've done, why I've rejected things that could have been helpful. And even most recently, when I think about the two types of breath work that I was doing, for example, because that's a huge piece now that is changing everything, especially for me. And so there's two different kinds. I call them like the expansion breath works, but that help you move through these issues that we're talking about. The muscle memory that says it's not safe to have money. It's not safe to spend money. It's not safe to save money. Like all of these major belief systems that have been created through life that you just can't, write your affirmations every single day and overcome them completely, right? If you want to do it quickly, you do it my way. And so that's one kind, and they're like 25 minutes long, and it's the ones that I was doing with everybody in your mastermind. And then there's the other kind that are more activating. They're for little situations to activate you to go take action and get you buzzing. It's not so much about ripping away old conditioning as much as it's like taking you where you are right now in this moment and putting you into like a fucking vibe, right? And so I, over the last year, have been naturally gravitating towards the action ones, right? Because I had trained my body to live off adrenaline and cortisol and stress, and I naturally gravitated away from the ones that would have helped me increase my capacity. That would have calmed me the fuck down and would have probably made me way more money than I even made over the last year, which was like one of the higher years since I quit my job, right? And so when I it's crazy because like literally my mind was saying it's not safe to go spend 30 minutes doing that one over there. You're going to get bored. You're going to just be breathing that same breath and you can't even hold on to that. So do this one. It's only 13 minutes and it's way more fun. You know what I mean? And so these internal battles were going on. And even when I would do the ones that were more of like the more meditative states, I would set them to 1.5 or 2 times the speed to do them quicker. So like it's like
That wins the internet. That comment
yeah.
right there wins the internet
I'm like
today.
outing myself 100% because I know I'm not the only one, right? And I would still get like some result from it. I'd still cry my eyes out and feel great the next day, but I was missing the whole freaking point. And so now I'm like, oh my God, I get it now. Now I see like these ones are like the superhero calming you into the homeostasis to expand, to make expansion a safe thing, to increase your capacity in a safe way. And then you take the actionary ones to then not just keep you where you are, but like activate you into that next level and take those actions. But if I had never started doing breath work, I would never have even, learned this and tripped over myself over the last year. But like there's a lot of people out there that are in that category you just explained because they don't know or have or want to do these tools that would help them so much and help them get out of their own way within probably by the end of this year. Like even if you were like really bad off, if you were like you mind fuck yourself on like every single second of the day, if you committed to this work for like 6 months, you'd see such a huge change in your life. Like you wouldn't even recognize yourself probably a month from now.
Absolutely. And I think our personal self has to evolve at the rate of our business self.
Yeah.
And this is something that people find really difficult because they avoid working on their personal self because it's like my business needs all the attention. That's not the truth. You need to clock off. And I've had to like retrain myself to get comfortable. Obviously, I work with people all over the world. So it's like a lot of time zones in a lot
Yeah.
of different spaces. And it's like, okay, now it's 9 p.m. There's a voice note there that can wait till morning. Because if not, how can I be? I know what I bring to the surface. I know the energy I bring to the surface. And there has to be some kind of boundary that says, I've got to work on my adrenals. I've got to work on my
Yeah.
nervous system. I've got to work on myself to keep giving in this way and providing in this
Yeah.
way. And obviously, it's about getting that balance right of I want to show up for my business, do the strategy, be time productive, show up for the communication, but also I need to give myself permission to feel and thrive. And that's something that I'm really heightenizing this year of like,
Yeah.
where do I live in the realm of the business?
Yeah.
How can I like lead from the front of the expectation? Because the last year, one of the things I've noticed, people on the internet is batshit crazy. The more I've started to be contracted into charities, organizations, corporations, like I look at the online space and I'm like, you guys are wild. You buy this business because you want me. How do you expect me to be in 20,000 places at once when you paid me 97 for one reading? Like that is not what you're entitled to, hon. Like I
Yeah.
had to get so comfortable with what is the boundary and the standard? How am I going to articulate that, communicate that? How am I going to allow people to understand what is an expectation of me, what's not? And that has been such a balancing act because it's shown me how to prioritize myself even more, which in
Yeah.
turn is very stimulating for the right person, but for the wrong person, that's definitely going to be a trigger.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and that was going to be one of my questions because I know we need to wrap up because you got your little
We can
kids who
talk
are
about
passing
it.
out in their Cheerios. But like, and I, by the way, can't believe it's 7 o'clock and so bright where you are. Is it what time? Like, right? Is it like the,
Yeah, yeah, it'll be light until like 8, 9.
okay, okay. That's how it's getting here now too. Um, so going to the topic, this is the last question, but the art of like really being yourself, what we were talking about earlier with showing up in your own skin, right? Your own energy, your own personality. How do you fit this in with your corporate audience? Because for those of you who don't know, Rosie in what, two weeks is going to be hosting an event. Sorry, my mother-in-law just texted me and she always tries. I'm like, it throws me off. I'm like, ah, what happened?
She's coming, hide in the closet.
Like, how'd she know? How'd she find me? I'm like, whoa. Everybody, I'm just human here. Okay, let's move right on. Okay, so whew, Rosie's hosting this event in like 2 weeks. It's called the Pitch Party. And so she's going to be teaching all of us entrepreneurs how to land big deals with, corporate contracts with corporations, charities, things like that outside of the online space. And, to start to grow your business there, to show your genius there, and to help those kinds of corporations with like your meditations. I was actually, the more we've talked about this, the more I've run into people who have hired people. And I think it's just amazing. And it's going to like blow my business up for sure. And it's exactly what we were talking about 2 months ago in Boston. I'm like, ooh, tell me your secrets, Anyway, so how do you be like, do you feel like they accept you as you are, or is this more of like an air of more like you be yourself but still add that professionalism layer on, or is it just my corporate trauma speaking right now?
I definitely couldn't do that if I tried. Like, for those of you who
Okay.
don't know, I came back from working in the French Alps, ended up going to work in an office for a temporary period of time, and Lewis had gone to work in an office as well. Now, Lewis got given a disciplinary because he stole some biscuits from the staff kitchen. And I
Nice.
was constantly getting told off because like I'd go into the place and just be my loud, obnoxious self and tell them what wasn't working because that's just who I am. And I think I've worked so hard throughout life to have this level of personality that I'm just not willing to be in places that don't honor that don't bring that to the surface. And especially working with like women's charities, women that have been through domestic violence, I don't want to go in there and be that figure
Yeah.
that makes them think, who's this, person that's coming and speaking at me when she's got no understanding of the trauma that I've been through or what I've experienced in my life.
Yeah.
I want women from every space, regardless of how they've grown up, to feel like that is possible for me. That gets to be a reality for
Yeah.
me. And I think the thing is with the corporate space, there's gonna have to be a shift, especially with the way that the online communities and things are growing. Where do you allow your staff to feel like staff so that they can be high performing in their sales process, so that they can reach their targets? Because there's an ambience, there's a vibe, there's an energy.
Yeah.
And even more so, it's stretching me. I must admit, the first contract that I got, I went in and I was a bit like, oh. But I was like that the first ever event that I hosted in the UK because it was stretching my muscle memory. And I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I can get my words out. Like, I feel uncomfortable. This is a stretch. But the more you ease into that and the more you get comfortable with that, the more you're normalizing that. And that's part of my mission to say, I'm going to be me in this setting because this setting really needs that version of me. And I'm also
Yeah.
going to be me in that setting because they need that version of me. So I've
Yeah.
had to get really comfortable with vocalizing that voice and that communication.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, stay consistent, right? And that I don't think we could end on any better note, right? Okay, so tell everybody where they can find you and how to follow you and get in your world, because if they aren't already, then they need to be.
Okay, so the best place to probably come is the Misfit Business Lounge Facebook group. I'm actually doing a 7 days of how in there at the minute, which is telling you all the things that I'm doing in my business, both energetically, strategically, to take myself through everything that I teach to everybody else to show you what's going to be created through a 7 day period and the after effect of that, both emotionally, physically, and the leads that it imprints inside of my business. So come there, you can see all of my energy there. And then if you want to buy anything, you can buy something. I'm not here to pitch. You can just decide what you want.
Okay, fair enough. All right, guys. Well, thank you all so much for joining the Business Manifestival this week. It has been so much fun. And thank you, Rosie, for joining us today. I'm going to leave all these replays up in the guides section so you can go back there and you can, dive in, get in all of that magic. And no gatekeeping here on this one. You can just enjoy watching these. They're all going to also be on the I'm Not Salesy podcast. So if you haven't already gone and subscribed and follow the podcast and listen to all that, like there's so many great episodes on there too. And so we're going to be adding to that. And if I wanted to say, so my course on becoming a sexy sales magnet and creating a passive income funnel that's going to help you like make money in your sleep, and also includes big sales breath work with it to help you like get out of these like scaries that you have about overwhelmed around creating funnels. I have breath works that are for attracting and magnetizing the right clients with your funnel. We're doing one around procrastination and getting over that and getting into action, as well as finding the right messaging, writing the right content, and really overall making this a very magnetic way for you to constantly have new leads and new faces and new sales coming into your business. It's called Sales on Demand. And this week only, I have it on a special for $5.99. And you can come join us for that before the price doubles. Okay. And so thank you so much, Rosie. Y'all can DM me, or I'll drop the link in here too. And also, go follow Rosie. Like, she's the bomb. And we will see you all next time.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm just laughing at Kristen's comment of I will channel a dog. I don't care. When
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
I was like, all right. Thank you so much for having me here. I will check in with everybody else's recordings and watch the magic.
You got it. All righty. Bye, guys.
Bye.